Most people think solitude makes a man strong because it gives him peace. That's only the beginning. The real change happens when no one is there to push him, praise him, correct him, or tell him what to do. His time becomes his decisions become his, and so do the consequences. At first, that freedom feels like relief, but eventually solitude asks something harder of him. Can you govern yourself when nobody's watching? And slowly he discovers what remains when the noise of other people disappears. But there is a part of solitude most men don't see coming, because the same silence that can sharpen a man can also expose everything he has been avoiding. And near the end, you'll see what determines which way it goes. That is when solitude becomes a forge. When peace starts feeling more valuable, Ryan had spent years inside a relationship that no longer felt peaceful, and nothing felt simple anymore. Eventually, the tension became so constant, it started feeling normal. One evening after work, he tried to help by organizing a few things around the house before she got home, but she was angry. And in that moment, he realized peace had become rarer than love. He felt like a stranger in his own home. The gesture felt less important than the fact that he acted without permission. Ryan didn't argue. It's not one big fight that wears a man down. It's the repetition, the same tension, over and over. Then one day, the house was quiet, not empty, just finally calm. No raised voices. Now he can make decisions without anyone questioning it. He stops measuring strength by how much tension he can endure. Sometimes strength is knowing what deserves a response and what deserves to be left alone. When life finally slows down, he thought this was just how life felt until it suddenly didn't. He sleeps deeper. No late-night arguments. No checking his phone before bed, wondering what mood the night will end in. For the first time in years, home no longer feels tense. That's when something inside him finally settles. And for a while, he thinks this peace is everything he needed. But in that same quiet, there are moments he never talks about. When he realizes he doesn't miss the noise. He misses being cared for without having to ask. A lot of men spend years pretending that part doesn't hurt them anymore. And after enough disappointment, silence starts feeling safer than emotional uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it. Peace is not something another person gives you. It's something you stop surrendering." He can miss someone without letting loneliness make the decision for him. You're probably not the only man who understands this. If this resonates with you, like this video and subscribe. When your time finally belongs to you, a man can spend so much of his life showing up for everyone else and barely notice how little of his life is actually his. And one day it hits him, he was present for everything except his own life. There's no longer a checklist waiting for him the moment he walks through the door. A weekend can pass without a single obligation. One afternoon, he looks at the clock and realizes nobody has interrupted his peace for hours. For a moment, he almost feels guilty. Then he realizes there is nothing he is supposed to be doing. Time disappears quietly, and when no one else controls his time, he loses one of his easiest excuses for wasting it. What he does with it begins to reveal the man he is becoming. When a man rediscovers his own interests, old parts of him begin returning. One afternoon, he spends hours fixing something in the garage and realizes he hasn't checked the time once. A long drive suddenly feels relaxing again. A slow morning coffee becomes something he actually enjoys instead of rushing through. They didn't completely lose themselves in one dramatic moment. They lost themselves gradually by never having enough space to hear what they still enjoyed. He reads more, spends time outdoors without feeling rushed. His days stop feeling like something he is simply getting through. they start feeling like his again. He begins separating what he truly enjoys from what he simply learned to perform for others. When he stops being available to everyone, the more dependable he became, the more people assumed he would always be available. Being useful is not the same as being valued. What he gave so freely became expected and eventually unnoticed. No one asked if he was tired, they only asked if he was available. Then his phone rings again. Someone needs another favor. This time he lets it ring. Nothing terrible happens. Not everything deserves his energy anymore. He no longer feels the need to say yes to everything. He begins to want something simpler, a kind of peace that doesn't ask anything from him. Eventually, he stops feeling guilty for protecting his own energy. Not every man becomes selfish in solitude. Some simply stop giving everyone unlimited access to them. When self-respect becomes non-negotiable, when a relationship loses its sense of ease, moments of quiet disrespect begin to appear. I already told you, why do I have to repeat myself? Can we not do this right now? You're exhausting. He doesn't argue. He doesn't try harder. When respect fades, effort doesn't restore it. It just makes him easier to dismiss. That's when he starts choosing differently, because a quiet home makes one thing easier to protect: respect without having to ask for it. He stops compromising his own standards just to avoid someone else's reaction. When big decisions finally become his, for Steve, it was leaving his job. For years, he had wanted to start a small business of his own. Nothing impressive, just something he could build and call his. But when he brought it up at home, the fears came quickly. What if it fails? What if we lose our savings? What about the kids? What if you can't provide for them? And the truth was, those fears made sense. He had children depending on him, bills that arrived every month. So he stayed. 1 year became 5, 5 became 10. Eventually, 15 years passed. The dream never disappeared. He just became very good at putting it aside. Years later, with fewer voices shaping his decisions, he found himself thinking about it again. Only now there was no one telling him the risk was too high. But there was also no one else to blame if it failed. So he started small. He kept his job and built the business on the side. For the first time in 15 years, the decision was finally his. If the decision is his, so is the consequence. He learns to trust his own judgment without needing someone else to approve it first. When a man feels watched in his own home, have you ever felt like you had to be careful in your own home? He feels watched. Sometimes a man isn't tired of people. He's tired of performing around them, explaining his choices, softening what he really thinks, saying yes when he wants to say no. And over time, that constant self-monitoring exhausts him more than he realizes. A man can close the door and still carry an audience inside his head. Real solitude begins when that audience finally goes quiet. If you've lived this, just comment, "I understand." But silence is only the beginning. Eventually, he has to decide what he will do with all that freedom. Because solitude removes many of the pressures that once controlled him. Near the end, you'll see why freedom strengthens some men while quietly weakening others. When freedom starts feeling valuable, at some point he realizes life is moving faster than he once believed. Not because the world suddenly changed, because he finally understands it is limited. One afternoon, Robin finds an old list of places he wanted to visit. Most of them are still unchecked. And suddenly the list feels less like plans and more like lost time. Not because the dreams disappeared, because the years did. He thought he was sacrificing parts of himself to build a future. Then one day he realized the sacrifice had become his life. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." A man rarely notices what is disappearing while he is busy surviving. Eventually, he no longer wants to postpone being alive. Freedom becomes the responsibility to do something with the life he still has. When experience makes him more careful, a relationship that began with excitement, some ended fast, others collapsed slowly. None of them ended the way he once believed they would. After living through enough beginnings and endings, a man becomes more careful about where he places his energy. He hasn't lost his desire. He has simply learned that sometimes the price can be too high. Once in a while, he still goes on a date. The conversation is pleasant. The restaurant is quiet. Nothing goes wrong. Before they leave, she smiles and says, "We should do this again." But in the drive home, he realizes something surprising. He feels more relief returning to his own peace than sadness about the night ending. He prefers to leave it exactly there. A short connection, then back to a life that still feels like his own. For many men, solitude is not about avoiding love. He can enjoy connection without clinging to it. He no longer chooses from the fear of being alone. When peace is no longer enough. For nearly 5 years, Joe lived alone in complete silence. The pressure was gone, but peace alone stopped feeling enough. His days became quiet, but also repetitive. And once life became quiet, the questions he had stayed busy enough to avoid became harder to ignore. Then one quiet afternoon, something unexpected happened. Joe was sitting alone watching a group of children playing near an old basketball court when an idea suddenly entered his mind. Not a dramatic dream, not a business, just a simple thought. What if I taught them the things nobody ever taught me? For the first time in a long while, he felt genuinely needed again. A reason to wake up early, a reason to prepare something, a reason to care about tomorrow. A few weeks later, he borrowed a small room from a local church and started teaching free life skills classes to children from struggling families. Nothing about it made him rich, but something inside him slowly came back to life. Peace is not the final destination. Purpose is. Sometimes solitude finally becomes quiet enough for a man to hear what his life is still asking from him. Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. Seneca. The test no one sees. Solitude can feel like freedom at first, but without self-control, that freedom can slowly turn into neglect. There is no one reminding him to wake up earlier, no one pushing him to stay active. For some men, that freedom can easily turn into long hours doing nothing. Just one skipped walk, one lazy morning that becomes a habit. No one would know if he stayed in bed until noon. He gets up anyway. No one would know if he skipped the walk. He puts on his shoes anyway. A calm life still requires discipline. He keeps the house in order. He stays physically active. Not because anyone is watching. When no one else is setting the rules, there is no one left to blame for what he becomes. Eventually, his standards no longer need an audience. Some men use freedom to sharpen themselves. Others use it to avoid themselves. A man who can govern himself becomes harder to break. That is why some men collapse in silence, while others are rebuilt by it. Maybe strength was never about how much a man could endure. Maybe it was about reaching a point where he no longer needed chaos to know who he was. There is something different about a man who can sit in silence without needing to escape it. He has nowhere to perform, no one to impress, no noise to hide behind, just himself. And if he can build a life there, not merely tolerate it, something changes. The world becomes less capable of pulling him away from himself. Solitude was never teaching him how to disappear from life. It was teaching him how to return without losing himself again. A man like that does not need to announce his strength. You can feel it in what no longer controls him. And perhaps that is how solitude forges a man, not by making his world smaller, by making him harder to move from within. If this spoke to you, tell me what solitude has taught you in the comments. And if you know a man who needs to hear this, share it with him. This is Move or Die Stoic. Stay grounded, stay sharp, stay in control,